Joining me now is former member of President George W. Bush's senior staff and professor of public policy, politics, and international affairs at Georgetown University, Bradley Blakeman. Bradley, what's your take on this? Are Cruz, Carson, Trump, and Rubio the final four?
Not at all. I think it's too early to tell. Not one vote has been cast. And I happen to believe that Kasich may be the dark horse here who has the ability to rise above the fray. And the reason I say that is because political elections, especially presidentials, are all about political math. And Ohio is a must-win state for Republicans. He's the sitting governor, got a great record, so I wouldn't count him out yet. But certainly in a field of 14, there's going to have to be some whittling down. That may come, unfortunately, after Iowa.
That surprises me that you say Kasich. His numbers have been going down. What policies do you think that he has that would make him appeal to voters above some of the other high-profile contenders?
Well, you have to be selected by the party before you're elected by the people. In the selection process, we have a sitting governor of Ohio. He's had a great record in Ohio. He's been able to reach voters that we need in a general election, independents, minorities. And the fact is, he's a fiscal conservative, and exactly what my opinion, what the doctor ordered for our national economy. He's somebody who balanced a budget. He's somebody who knows how to meet a payroll. He has to as a governor. So I wouldn't count Kasich out. I think he's very attractive, and he fits the electoral profile that we needed to win.
I grew up in Ohio. I actually was an Ohio voter until just a couple years ago, and I would consider myself a disgruntled Ohio voter with Kasich. His Medicare or Medicaid expansion wasn't what I would call fiscally conservative. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, states are not the federal government, and what works for a state doesn't necessarily work for the federal government, and Kasich understands that. The fix that was made in Ohio is not necessarily the fix that's needed nationally, and he understands that. So I wouldn't judge his entire bona fides as a candidate based on that one policy. The fact is that he's created a surplus, great employment numbers, great diversity, and is able to attract voters. So that's, in my opinion, what makes him a very attractive candidate as the Republican for the presidency.
Right, and I do appreciate the pro-life things that he's done in Ohio. He's done some great work there, and he has helped small businesses. I do judge him a little bit on the Medicaid expansion, not even for the policy itself, but for his reasoning behind it, that he said it was a Christian thing to do or what God would want him to do. I'm not sure that's the kind of logic that, regardless of whether I agree with his Christian beliefs, which I do, but I'm not sure that's the kind of reasoning we want behind solid policy on a national level. But let's get back for a moment to the article that claimed that there are 4 frontrunners. This article says nothing about Jeb Bush. He's off the list of the top contenders. Now, is this a surprising prediction to you, given how much Jeb Bush has raised this summer and given his name recognition, or is it not too surprising given his poor debate performances?
No, I think this is piling on. And I think, again, it's a little premature. I remember when McCain was all but counted out, all his staff was dismissed. He was walking around an airport with his own bag, and he rose from the ashes. So I think it's too premature to count Jeb out.
I, for one, would love to see 2016 being the year of the outsider as well. I think it would be great to see a President Fiorina, President Trump, or President Carson. I know you said it's pretty early for speculation to rule people out or to predict who's going to win. But who do you think, if you had to make this early prediction, who do you think will be the next to drop out, even if you're not comfortable predicting who's going to stay in all the way? Who's out?
Sure. Look, I think the lower tier, the Patakis of the world, the Huckabees of the world, Jindal, they can't have the staying power. By the way, it's not how much money you have in the bank, it's how much grassroots you have on the ground. A complement of both, obviously, is a winning team to put together. You cannot substitute one for the other. You need money and you need grassroots support. The only way you get that is not necessarily in the polling, but in attracting volunteers and all the accoutrements you need for an organization. And we're not seeing that happen with lower tier candidates. We're not even seeing it with some, like Carly Fiorina has not been able to capitalize on her good performances in the debates with grassroots support, volunteers, and the network you need in order to get out the vote.
Right. I was a little underwhelmed with how she was able to translate that, because I'm definitely rooting for Team Carly, but I was a little disappointed that she hasn't been able to raise more grassroots awareness. But I think the point that you made about money not necessarily translating into grassroots support is a good point too, because Jeb is a perfect example of that again, that he raised so much money earlier in the summer, but he hasn't been able to gain the traction this fall, whether it's through the debates or through grassroots.